So with all hail-related claims, we're going to want to investigate what evidence we have there was actually hailfall at the location of this roof, right? Light gauge metals are a great place to look to see if there was any hail at this property that you're inspecting. Those materials would be first to get damaged, and listed there on the right are just a few of the more common ones, but certainly there are others out there you might find on or around any given commercial property. Here's a couple roof vent caps that are clearly showing hail was present at this location. Note it's always a good idea to include a ruler in your photo to show scale. Remember, the size of the dent or dents is not the size of the hail in most cases. Here's some more great photos using HVAC condenser pins to tell the story of how much hail, the size of the hail, and the direction of that hail. But be careful, just because you have some or even significant signs of hail to light metals, it still does not guarantee damage to the commercial roof membrane. Don't get ahead of yourself and jump to conclusions. All right, then we have the phenomenon called clean spots. Some might call it spatter, splatter, even splash marks. Often it is mistakenly identified as hail, when in fact, as I've said in the past, it's the opposite. In these cases, the hail actually made the product better, cleans off dirt, debris, stains, and oxidized paint. Clean spots such as these examples can help with several things, though, which is great. How much hail fell? We kind of refer to that as density. What size was it? And what direction did it come from? And again, this evidence of clean spots also does not mean we have hail damage to the roof membrane, even with big clean spots. So what is hail damage to these types of roofs? Well, we have a kind of an official engineering definition that hail damage to a built-up roof or mod membrane can be defined as an identifiable mark of distress caused by hail that, here's the key, measurably and significantly reduce the integrity and or functionality of the overall membrane. Of course, that's where it was sound and good before the hail impact. And depending on the composition of the roof, hail damage can take many forms. It's not always just one uniform thing. So now we're on to everybody's favorite section, besides, of course, this case studies. That's looking at photos of damage. First four are going to be built-up roofs. Here's our first image. You can see an example of a smooth surface built-up roof, even though it's older. It did have that elastomeric coating, right? Notice the flood coat was already cracking, showing extreme age, but it did get hit by 2-inch hail. It shows major damage. Flood coat blasted away, and the top ply of the system was actually fractured. And I love this comparison in image B, where we also had collaterals telling us we had approximately 2-inch hail, but this time we had a built-up roof that had that gravel surface. Same size hail as A, but with gravel surfacing, which protected it, this roof surface did not sustain any fractures. So I guess that's a good selling point to have gravel added to the roof beyond the fact that we needed it there or wanted there to protect from UV that we talked about earlier. Image C, and this time we have a kind of a strange scenario. This is an older coal tar application, but that's not why it's more susceptible to hail in this case. There was a ridge in this roof surface for some reason, not really sure why, but it had less gravel. It was also less supported underneath it, right? We talk about that in our other hail classes. It's going to be more susceptible if there's less supported. And we end up with damage in this. Note too, we can tell this is kind of newer damage. The exposed roofing product under the gravel is still nice and black. Looks, even though it's older, it looks newer because it's just exposed. And if this had been there for a long time, it would be more dried out, might be faded and things like that. Then our last image, again, good marketing photo if you were a salesperson selling gravel-coated roofs. This one was hit by confirmed large hail, did displace a little bit of the gravel, but it did not create any functional damage to the top coat or the plies of that roof. All right, now let's talk about hail damage to modified bitumen roof membranes. In our first photo, you can clearly see a large bruise caused by a hail hit. Again, love the fact there's a ruler in that photo. Sometimes when you take a close-up photo, or maybe you get a close-up photo, you have no idea what you're looking at. Is that mark a 1/4 inch across, or is it 1.5 inches across like this one? So try to always get a scale in there, right? This photo is a cutout of that same bruise we just showed you. And wow, look at that. that was big hail. It definitely created functional damage. As you can see, the fracture all the way through the mod bit membrane and even into the felt paper below it, right? Great photo. We're not really recommending you get out there or have somebody get out there and start cutting open the suspected hail hits. This was for a very specific scenario, but hey, it sure works great and nice to use it as a teaching point and show you what it means when we say have a fracture completely through the membrane, which of course would allow water to get below it, which is not good, creates all sorts of other issues, and might be your next claim. Then we have this one, photo C. Perhaps it looks as bad as the one above, but the fact this time is a lot of granule loss, but no fracture. But you still have to be careful. So you do have to be careful with your identification. Know what policies in force. Perhaps there's something about functional damage versus cosmetic damage. You need an engineer to inspect the roof and let you know, but ultimately you're going to have to make the coverage decision when it comes to that. And with our last photo, we have another clear hit with a significant fracture. And I know if we cut this one open, we would probably see a very similar event as like the one right above it.